Okay, maybe we'll get going because we have a busy day and it's only a half hour, and I know some people have a hard stop, so we'll make sure that everybody gets that all the information. So welcome to LSO's third annual road trip across the province, and we're extremely happy today to be in our nation's capital in Ottawa, and I hope you enjoy the presentation today. Before we get started, I would like today recognize that the land of Ontario that we're standing on today is in the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples. And I acknowledge that Ontario is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with the multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. And as I sit in Toronto, that is also covered by Treaty 13. Each day, but I think particularly today, as we reflect on this land acknowledgement and on this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, we need to recognize that reconciliation is an active, not a passive process. And so I'd first like to thank the Inclusive Life Science Collaboration for giving some suggestions on how we can actively participate by doing things like reading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report and survivor stories, read about the history of our Indigenous peoples in Canada, the residential schools, the Doctrine of Discovery and the India Act. And I encourage you to reflect and share the truths of what you learn, and most importantly, how you can become an ally and actively decide how you can help in this path along the Truth and Reconciliation. It's an important day today, but it's a day in a year where it should be a thought every day. And especially I would ask you, every time you hear a land acknowledgement, think about it, what it means, not just that we did one, but what does that really mean? So thank you very much for that. Today, I would specifically like to thank for this event, our event sponsor, FSD Pharma, and I'd like to introduce Dr. Kotra to say a couple of words.
Thank you very much, Alison. It's a delight and honor to, on this historic day, to support LSO's efforts on this road trip, especially in Ottawa, that this is happening. FSD Pharma is a biotech company located in Toronto. We are traded on NASDAQ and Canadian Stock Exchange, German stock exchanges, and we are intensely working hard to develop novel solutions for brain and inflammatory disorders. We are a clinical stage company with a phase 2 clinical asset for FSD-201, which is a fantastic, very high safety profile molecule that's entering phase 2 currently. And we wish all the best to LSO on today for this roadshow in Ottawa. Thank you very much for the opportunity to support LSO.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kotra, and I encourage people to look at what FSD Pharma is doing. It's very exciting. I would like to just remind you that if you have questions, we're going to deal with questions at the end. We have several speakers that really give you a flavor of the Ottawa ecosystem today. And so if you have questions, put them in the Q&A, which is at the bottom of your screen, and I will moderate those at the end of the session. So today, I'm not going to go through all the bios of the speakers. You can find those on your Feedloop platform, but I would just like to say that we're going to have 5 speakers today: Kim Riel from Invest Ottawa, Ken Lawless from University of Ottawa, Finn Nguyen from Gene RXN, Stephen Hansen from Spiderwort, and Michelle Bamji-Moser from Collège de City. I apologize that my French is very bad. I won't come in to introduce each one of them. They'll run through their presentation, and I remind you to put questions as needed or as they come up in the session. So I'll hand it over to our first speaker, which is Kim.
Thank you, Alison. So good morning. My name is Kim Riel, and I'm the Senior Sector Strategist for the Life Science sector at Invest Ottawa. Next slide. So Invest Ottawa is the economic agency for the city of Ottawa. We provide programs and services to early stage companies, SMEs, and MNEs that have a presence in the Ottawa region. For example, we have an incubator, we provide market research services, and we help companies to find talent In addition, we also promote the Ottawa region to foreign companies to do business in the region. Next slide. Although Ottawa is the capital of Canada, Ottawa has developed a high-tech sector that include 1,750 companies, and we have 77,000 people working in this sector. Next slide. As a result, Ottawa has the highest tech concentration in North America at 11.3%, ahead of San Francisco at 10.5%. Next slide. We have more than 154 companies in the life science sector. The largest subsector is the medical device sector, which include 68 companies and employs 60% of the people in the sector, followed by the digital health sector. Next slide. So Ottawa can be considered a hub in designing and developing viral vectors, oncolytic viruses, and regenerative medicine. We have a unique virus and cell manufacturing facilities at the Ottawa Hospital Research Institute. These facilities are GMP compliant with European Health Canada and FDA standards. And also I want to highlight that we have commissioned a bibliometric analysis for the Ottawa region this year. And I'm showing here a graph that highlights the key strengths in the biopharma sector for the Ottawa region. On the y-axis, you have the specialized index indicator compared to Canada, and on the x-axis, the specialized index indicator compared to the world. So what does it mean? So the special index indicator show how much emphasis this city puts in the field relative to Canada and the world. For example, if 20% of a city publication is in a particular field, like for cancer, and Canada is 15%, so the ratio SI is 20% on 15%, so it's 1.33. So it means that more the number is high, better you're specialized. So you could see definitely in the graph that Ottawa has a key expertise in developing biovectors for cancer, and also in Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and on stem cell vaccine and gene therapy. Next slide. So here's a few examples of biopharma companies. So the most renowned one is Turnstone Biologics, which has developed a couple of immuno-oncology platforms. There's Vika that has developed a small molecule platform that increases the manufacturing yield of engineered viruses. And also I want to highlight that VBI vaccine has recently received $50 million of financing to continue the development of a vaccine against COVID-19 and for other coronaviruses. Next slide. So for the medical device sectors, we could say that Ottawa is a leader in semiconductor and photonics, which roots back to Nortel in the 1970s. As a result, Ottawa has developed an expertise in point of care and in vitro diagnostics. Furthermore, we can be considered as a leader in medical isotopes in Canada, and as you can see based on the graph, which highlight with our expertise in nuclear medicine and medical imaging, when you compare to other cities like Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal, Ottawa is very specialized in that area. Next slide. So here I listed a few medical device companies. So the two main employer, I would say, is Abbott Point of Care and Siemens Healthineers, that both is manufacturing a handheld blood analyzer. So Abbott employs around 1,000 people, Siemens Healthineers around 350 people, and we also have a couple of renowned companies like Thermo Fisher Scientific that is based here in Ottawa, has a facility here, and Boston Scientific. Next slide. Within the digital health sector, this is a key growth sector for Ottawa, and this is due to the fact that we have expertise in software development, including machine learning and artificial intelligence. We have around 560 software companies, and 90% of the research and development and telecommunication is done in Ottawa. And also, I would just want to highlight that the Ottawa and Gatineau region has a cybersecurity cluster that includes 100 companies. And here I also I put two graphs that shows the expertise in medical informatics. You can see Ottawa is on the right side and top corner, and then bioinformatics also. Next slide. So here are a couple of digital health companies. So you could see that the companies are developing all kinds of products from mobile health, patient engagement solutions, telehealth solutions, and wearables. I want to mention that Fullscript has received last year one of the largest venture capital rounds in Ottawa by raising $300 million to expand its online natural health products platform in the US, and the company employs around 350 people just in Ottawa. Next slide. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for that. Hi, my name is Ken Wallace, and I'm Executive Director of the Ottawa Health Innovation Hub, and I'll talk a bit about University of Ottawa, its affiliates and such. Thank you. You can switch over. That's great. Thank you. The University of Ottawa and its affiliates generate about $260 million in research income. We have 6 hospital-affiliated research institutes, 5 hospitals. We run about 6 national networks, Stem Cell Network, BioCanRx, GoverNet, Care for Rare, and others. We're consistently ranked as a medical school 2 or 3 in research intensity in Canada. The next slide, please. This just gives you an idea of some of the commercialization activities of the university and its affiliated hospital research institutes. So over 1,000 agreements since 2017, 100 partners, $170 million leveraged, 334 patents applied for. We've given out about 67 licenses, and you can see we're very active, as Kim has shown in spin-offs, 23 spin-offs in that time. You can see the breadth of collaboration with large pharma and others going forward. Next slide, please. I run the Ottawa Health Innovation Hub. It's an initiative led by the University of Ottawa with its post-secondary institutional partners, which includes ACT, who's on today, as well as Algonquin College and Carleton, plus the affiliated hospital research institutes and the hospitals. My role is to nurture this ecosystem and support commercialization of discoveries into those next high-growth firms and focusing on that. We recently renewed the partnership, and we're moving forward on this with major initiatives in infrastructure and commercialization support. Next slide, please. What we're really working on is addressing this innovation gap from discovery through product approval. We're working very, very hard on this, including development of new incubator and accelerator infrastructure, which we'll talk about, in commercialization scale up. And really focusing on that early stage development and of emerging companies as we go forward. The technology focus is, as Kim has shown you, is really those 3 sectors: biotech, medtech, and digital health, or AI. We have a number of programs that are being developed as we're moving forward, including a new incubator center, which we'll talk about. And we are really working very hard on a number of national initiatives around biomanufacturing, which we'll talk about. Next slide, please. So one of the major investments that is coming down the pipe is the new Advanced Medical Research Center, which will also be anchored by the Ottawa Health Innovation Hub. It's 350,000 square feet of a new discovery and translational research space. We're going to have innovation spaces. I'll show you that. It's construction will begin early next fall and occupancy late 2025. It's a $200 million plus investment by the University of Ottawa and about a $40 million investment in the hub. Next slide, please. So what's inside this building? Well, 300,000 square feet of research and common and shared infrastructure for a new PharmD program, a number of new initiatives in brain heart, which I'll talk briefly about, animal care and others. So think of this as we're basically doubling the amount of space available, or more than doubling the amount of space available from the Faculty of Medicine and increasing it. We are growing significantly, about 10 to 15% a year in terms of our research enterprise and moving forward. The Ottawa Health Innovation Hub then will support that with about 50,000 square feet, including incubation spaces for companies as we move forward. There'll be an additional 20,000 square feet for leasable space and talent development and training center and a smart health accelerator and digital health sandbox. So all of these are progressing and moving forward very, very quickly. Next slide, please. There are also other major infrastructure investments that are going on. The University of Ottawa is also focusing on Faculty of Health Sciences. This is a new faculty building. It's 236,000 square feet on Lees Avenue. It's a $135 million investment, and the construction's already started with this, and completion just I think in the 2023, end of 2023, early 24. There are also other investments that are being planned, including expansion of the Biotherapeutics Manufacturing Center, which Kim has alluded to. This, the existing center has 8 GMP suites, currently been active and, for about 15 years, has 40 employees, and we have a 2-year waiting list to get in. Its focus is on cell manufacturing and virus manufacturing, and has contributed to put through 4 COVID vaccines already, and others. Its specialty is focusing on phase 1 through phase 3. Next slide, please. There are several major new collaborative initiatives that are going on. One is the brain heart interconnectome. Traditionally, when you go see a doctor about depression, they treat you for depression. You go see a doctor for heart. Well, they don't. These are 2 linked areas, and this is a major initiative. The others is the Canadian Pandemic Preparedness Hub. We have 50 partners from across the country, including 25 private sector partners on focusing on expanding that biomanufacturing cohort, and of course a major digital health and synthetic data platform being developed by the Ottawa Hospital. Last slide. This is just a little bit of an advertisement for companies that are in that emerging and mid-stage. We'll be offering a new IDE certificate program. It's a 5-day intensive boot camp for emerging companies. This will take place in Toronto, and there will be subsidies available. So look for this in the coming days as we move forward. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Hi, my name is Michelle Bamji Mirza, and I'm a researcher here at the Technology Access Center in Bioinnovation at the Tech B at La Cité College in Ottawa. And I've entitled my presentation, sorry, if you can go back, collaborate with colleges for your industrial R&D projects, and you'll see why. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so the TACB, as we shortened it because it is a mouthful, we're one of 60 TACs across Canada, and we're essentially part of a network of research centers that are affiliated with Canadian colleges or CEGEPs. And our mandate really is to support Canadian innovation through collaborative research projects with industry. So not only with companies in Ottawa, but we collaborate with companies throughout Canada. And we support 3 sectors: agricultural biotechnology, industrial biotechnology, and what matters most in this talk today is health biotechnology. To give you an idea, we performed our first applied research project in 2009. So we've been here for quite a while. I just don't think a lot of people know we exist. So here we are. Currently, we have 11 full-time scientists on site, including 5 PhDs. And to give you an idea of our productivity in the last fiscal year of 2021-2022, we performed 45 applied research collaborations with 29 companies. Next slide, please. So big question, why perform college industry collaborations? Biggest one is you have access to co-funding. We have college industry partnership grants that we can apply for. So for example, for every $1 of cash contribution a company provides, we can obtain $4 from the government for these said projects. And we also have college university industry collaborations too. So that would be interesting with larger collaboration forces. Another thing we offer, and we're really proud of, is that we keep none of the intellectual property. All the IP that's developed during a project, method development, product improvement, what have you, is transferred entirely to the company. And this is different from, say, university or government, which takes a certain percentage at times. The other thing is we have access to experts. I mentioned we have 5 PhDs on the team, so we're experts in our own field. We can also work with consultants, or we can knock upon one of our other TACs in our network to obtain more expertise if we need it. And I'll get into more about the equipment in the next slide later, but we have about $5 million worth of infrastructure and equipment at our research center. One thing we're also really proud of is that every single one of these research projects with industry includes a student. And this is great for the student, of course, to develop skills, because this is something that we've heard is a problem kind of in the sector, is people that have the know-how and the technical abilities. And so we develop this, and a lot of the times these students are hired by the very companies that they were doing research projects with. So it's, a win-win situation. And all to say that our mode of collaboration is flexible based on your needs. So very tailored. Some companies come to us with exactly what they know what they want to do because we have the equipment and technical staff. Others come to us with an idea like, and we have the expertise and the equipment to put it into fruition. And we're also very transparent. If we can't do something, we'll let you know. Well, like I said, reach out to other experts to hopefully make it happen. Next slide, please. Thank you. So yes, I mentioned the $5 million worth of infrastructure and equipment we have at the Tech B at College La Cité. That includes, so we have 2 main labs. So one is a lab that had mammalian cell culture suite, so culture hoods, incubators, that sort of thing. We have a genetic suite with qPCR machines, PCR machines, and others. And then we have a second lab, which is our biosafety level 2 lab, and a license to use pathogenic level 2 bacteria, viruses, yeast. And that opens a lot of doors for companies because we can do quite a few things. And of course, a microbiology suite with, again, incubators and bioreactors. And then we also have a clinical chemistry suite, like HPLC, GCMS. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm happy to provide an equipment list if you reach out to us, and it'll give you an idea of, the kinds of things we can do. So we also have an in-house research ethics committee for projects involving human participants and a medical clinic in our basement at La Cité. And I can explain to you how that's important in the next slide. What's important to note is that we also have lab space for rent. So we can house from 1 to 4 employees from our industrial partners. Like they can have a lab space in our laboratory. And one thing we've done recently is we've been able to convert classrooms to exclusive use laboratory for industrial partners. And this is great. We've done 1 so far, and we're converting 2 classrooms currently into exclusive local lab space, which is great for the sector. Next slide, please. Great. So one of my last slides is just to give you a few examples of some of the things we can do. This is all industrial-based research, so all research that's been in collaboration with a company. So one, we developed a specialized blood collection tube to isolate cell-free DNA, which has applications in cancer and non-invasive prenatal testing. So it was a collaborative research study with the medical clinic at LSO, which was approved by the ethics committee that we have here. Over 4 years, we recruited over 500 participants to develop and optimize the product using their blood samples they provided. The second project, as an example, we did some in vitro assessment of a hand sanitizer that a company had produced. So it was evaluating the efficacy against viruses and yeast. So we used our level 2 facility. We could use mammalian cell culture and microbiology techniques to do this 8-month project and provide this information to the client. And last but not least, one of many examples, but we also were able to develop a portable demountable disinfector for personal protective equipment. And this project was special because we were able to work with another research center at the college. So while we were bioinnovation, they're smart prototyping, and they have artificial intelligence, which is all very exciting. I think when we can join sectors, we can do some great things. So, so their research center there, they have 3D printers for plastic, metal. So also say they conceptualized and built this proof of concept in collaboration with us at LSO, and then we were able to use thermostable bacteria to analyze water and air media options for the client to help them with their product development. Next slide, please. Perfect. So I'll stop here. I provided my email address if you guys want to reach out, website if you want more information, but I also want to thank our funding agencies for their support, because without it, we wouldn't be able to do this. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Well, that's a seamless transition. Thank you. So my name is Tin Nguyen. I am from Generation Research, which is a small biotech startup here in Ottawa. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the disease that we're really focusing on and really talking about today is Alzheimer's disease, or for short, AD. It's a neurodegenerative disease that affects about 1 in 9 North Americans. And so unfortunately, that means most of us have had or will have had a personal experience with this disease. Next, please. In addition, Alzheimer's disease has tremendous impact on our economy. Sorry, do you mind keep clicking? I forgot. Okay, that's good. So if we look at the US alone, which has a population 10 times as ours, we can see that the cost for AD and other type of dementia can reach $1 trillion in 2050. Unfortunately, 11 million Americans are currently providing unpaid care, which is estimated to be almost $300 billion. There's also some societal stigma around the disease. For instance, majority of physicians do agree that it's very important to diagnose the disease, but over half of them are hesitant to give this diagnosis to the patients. Next slide, please. So in order to find a cure or perhaps a compound that could slow down the progression of the disease, we need research, and specifically clinical research. Over the past 25 years, the field has really struggled with, the path to find a treatment for Alzheimer's disease. And so clinical studies are extremely important for us to test potential medications on patients. And it's crucial for us to support these companies right now in their quest to find the treatment. Next, please. And so the pain point or the problem that we have identified as clinical researchers in the field is for pharmaceutical companies running these clinical trials to easily and quickly identify patients who have the genetic risk for developing the disease, as genetic risk is one of the key factors determining patients' eligibility to participate in clinical trials. Next, please. So currently, companies are using the conventional lab testing, and I think most of us already know it's unnecessarily time-consuming, it's costly, and invasive because people have to give blood, and that's not fun. And so that limits the number of patients company can include in their studies, thus reducing the total number of data points and ultimately slowing down the progress of getting a new medication approved. And this is when we come in. Next slide, please. our solution to this challenge or this problem is a point-of-care instrument that can help companies recruit more eligible patients faster and more affordably. This point-of-care instrument is non-invasive. It's simple test, and then it can offer near instant genetic results. So with this device, next please. With this device, we hope to help companies identify more eligible patients faster and at a reduced cost. And ultimately, the goal is to help our customers improve the participation rate in their trials. Next, please. And so with that mission in mind, our team developed the initial concept in 2021. So we were still, in the academia umbrella at this point at the University of Ottawa. And so we decided to incorporate and moved into the industry in the summer of 2021. At that point, we were really struggling to figure out how to take that step or take that leap of faith to leave academia and go into industry. And we were so fortunate to meet La Cité, and specifically TACB, Michel and Julien. We established a collaboration with them. And with this collaboration, we were open to resources, not just in Ottawa, but in Canada, that can help us really help us achieve things that we didn't think would have been possible. And so with that funding, and as Michel mentioned earlier, we were able to hire technicians and students, as well as scientists from La Cité to help support us in the wet lab research. From TACB, we were able to meet their prototype space, as well as the engineering department. And in early 2022, we were able to establish our second round of funding from the federal and provincial government with the prototype space at La Cité. So fast forward, with the help of La Cité and the support and the resources that we were able to get through La Cité, we are getting closer and closer to completing our prototype, and more importantly, preparing for our next round of funding. So with that, I would like to thank for your attention. And so next slide, please. So if you have any questions or anything about the work we do or our product, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So I guess we're already a little bit over time, so I'll blow through some of the slides pretty quickly. So Spiderwort, so my name is Stephen Hansen, so I'm the business development director at Spiderwort. So next slide, please. We've been at this a little bit longer than the previous presentation. So we were a spin out of the University of Ottawa in 2015. So it's based on technology from Andrew Pelling's lab. So some of you may have seen the TED Talk, or the 2 TED Talks now, I guess, about using plants for medical devices. We have recently raised a Series A round, so we have some funding to continue our operations, and this was led by a credible venture capital fund, Horizons Ventures, out of Hong Kong. And most importantly, the team has now grown to over 20 people, so I think it's 23 is our current headcount. And for the Toronto folks on the call, this is what you can get in Ottawa if you go to the Scotiabank or out to the Canadian Tire Centre for a game. Next slide, please. So what is this technology out of Andrew Pelling's lab? So we are a biomaterials company. So we do, it's a platform biomaterial technology where we take cellulose structures that are found in nature in different plants and then repurpose them for use in regenerative medicine applications. So the key feature that I want to think about, or that's important for our applications, that these are biocompatible materials that don't cause any negative interactions with the body, but they're also long lasting. So we don't have the enzymes to break down cellulose. So these are long lasting materials that which is a positive impact for a number of the different applications. So next slide, please. So what are we doing with this? So as a platform, we get to decide what are the different applications that we want to target. And so we have a mix of really difficult and then some lower hanging fruit type applications. For those who've seen the TED Talks, yes, our lead application, the thing that gets us up in the morning, is in spinal cord injury repair. So we have materials that have structures with long microchannels that support that axonal regeneration after a spinal cord injury. So I'll spare you all of the technical details, but in summary, if you're a rat and we cut your spine, put our material in, 10 weeks later, that rat can walk again. rats aren't humans, and we know about all the limitations of those studies, but that's what we were pushing with that application. Another application is in the soft tissue augmentation. So perhaps it's the Zoom world of the last 3 years where everyone's staring at their faces more. The dermal filler or the aesthetics industry is a big growing market. Most of the materials that are out there right now are resorbable materials, so hyaluronic acid, which has to be re-injected after 6, 8, or 10 months. Our cellulose-based fillers will provide that long-lasting filling so that you don't have to go back and know your dermatologist on a first-name basis. Then our third, possibly most outside-the-box use of this technology is that it occurred to us that if we can make tissues in the lab, those tissues don't have to be restricted to human tissues in some of that original work. So we can make different animal tissues. So we're using this now to in the cellular agriculture space, so to create synthetic meats where we have either plant-based or cell-based meats. Recognizing that the business strategy and the technology for this is quite a bit different than the medical applications. We've been operating this group as a division of Spiderwort, so completely separate office, separate lab, separate group of staff, and we've named this Whiteboard Foods, and the goal is to eventually spin this out as its own standalone company. So one plug for Whiteboard Foods here is that it's a semi-finalist in the X Prize Feed the Next Billion competition. So we have a taste testing in Abu Dhabi in 6 weeks where hopefully our salmon fillet with cells will make it into that final stage of that competition. So next slide, please. So how does this Ottawa ecosystem fit with us? So I've thrown a few bullets on here. You've heard from speakers from a few of these places, but in Ottawa specifically, we are members. We are in the portfolio of Invest Ottawa and all the supports that brings through Kim and his colleagues. University of Ottawa. So the technology was originally from the University of Ottawa, but also many of the core facilities for infrastructure are just simply things that a small startup company cannot do on its own. I'm thinking animal facilities, so ACVS, or other core microscopy facilities at the university that are still partnering with us. And then possibly the most in-depth partnership is with La Cité Collégiale. So our labs, our wet labs at Spiderwort are currently housed out at La Cité, where many of those 23 employees currently reside and do their work. And of course, if we grow the local a little bit, we also have supports from OBio, Biotech Canada through many of their different programs. Sorry, just one last thing with La Cité. I'll go back to what Michelle mentioned as one of the benefits of that program, and it was a checklist of 4 things that she would bring to startup companies. We've been able to tap all 4 of those, whether it's the access to different creative funding arrangements, access to pipeline and talent coming from the college, and the collaborative way that we've actually been able to generate intellectual property. So with that, I'm happy to have people reach out. These are some of the faces that you may have seen walking around Ottawa or on TED, I guess.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and thank you for all of our speakers. I think we ran a little over, but that's because of the wealth of stuff that's going on in Ottawa, and I really appreciate it. And I hope for those of you who've been with us all week, really seen the breadth and excitement that is going across all of Ontario. I think we're going to be a bit late to have questions today, but what I would suggest is that if you want to contact, and you should contact all of our speakers and follow up with them, some fabulous information there. You can either connect if you manage to catch their information as they were going to slides, or even through the LSO office. We'll make sure that that information is available to everybody. And so I just have a couple of closing housekeeping. I know we're really running late, but just to remind you of a couple of webinars. There's a webinar that's going to be really interesting about best practice sharing on a robust life science strategy between Denmark, Ontario, and Quebec, and that's October 5th. October 20th, back to our breakfast series, back to the office, managing best practices in virtual and in-person employees and the mixtures thereof, and how do you manage that? And we will be in person for the first time also for our breakfast for the last 2 years. And then our Ideas to Action Life Sciences Forum, you might have previously known it as the Policy Forum, is on November 3rd. It's an action, so we need people to be actively involved, so please sign up. I encourage you to remind you about our LSO award nominations. Please nominate the companies, people that you think have made a real difference in the space. Please have a chance to visit our exhibitors. If you request information, you'll be entered into a draw for a $250 gift certificate. You get 4 draws for 4 visits. So please drop by and visit them all. And finally, thank you to all of our sponsors. Our platinum sponsors shown here, our gold sponsors, and our silver sponsors. Specifically today to our event sponsor, FSD Pharma, and also to all of you. LSO is a member-driven organization, and your participation in these events is this is for you, so we're glad you are here. And again, I'd like to real big thank you to all our speakers. There's some really exciting things going on in Ottawa, and I'm glad you were able to share with us today. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.